Hey everyone, welcome to Wiki's fantasy preview for round 3 of the NRL. Obviously, we've had some pretty dramatic first couple of rounds, especially including the HIAs and the concussions and the injuries in round 2. A lot of decisions for people to be making with their teams for both fantasy and Supercoach. I'm going to go through the same structure as last week, guys. Quick introduction in terms of what we do, go straight into the NRL teams and the team changes. Have a quick look at my own fantasy and Supercoach team. Going really well in one comp and really badly in the other. And then just some popular decisions that people are making around trading in, trading out players, captaincy decisions, etc. And obviously, it's the first week of price changes coming up for NRL Supercoach. So we'll have a quick look through that as well. So just really quickly, as you know, guys, I've been doing this for the last couple of weeks now in terms of the video and the audio format, but our website's been going for just short of 3 years now. Everything's free, content's free, data tools are free. We've got a free Discord, a newsletter. We're trying to build out a community. It's all free. So please join and follow. And obviously, we're trying to grow out the community. So that'd be awesome. Just in terms of this is our Linktree, similar to our website, except it's got links to basically everything that our company does pretty much. So you can see all the socials here. It'd be awesome if you could follow and sort of like whatever you're a part of on social media. That'd be amazing. Our homepage at wiki.ai, our website, is on here. Our Discord, which is essentially like a forum or a Facebook group, but it's just a different app, but a place where you can chat footy, chat betting, fantasy, Supercoach, whatever you want, all for free on here. And you can subscribe to our newsletter so you can find out like what's coming up for the week in terms of NRL and cricket content over here. A few of the other things that we do. So if you're into your sports betting, I do a punters preview article and also like a YouTube video and a Spotify, like audio podcast, just like the fantasy one here. So that's all on here. We'll update this with round 3 links. I've got a Google spreadsheet here that you can check out again for free with expected minutes and goal kickers for round 3. I've updated that just today. So round 3 teams over here. But yeah, you can obviously check out the rest of it here as well. So look, really appreciate it, guys. If you've got any feedback, please let us know. If not, enjoy the ride and obviously follow us on socials. So getting straight into it, this is going to be a really, really good game. So Manly obviously smashed the Bulldogs in week 1. There was a bit of a dubious sin bin, and apparently that turned the tide of the game. I didn't watch the game, but from what I've heard, Manly were the better side, but probably the margin shouldn't have been as much as it was on the day. And obviously the Dogs came back and shocked Melbourne in Melbourne the week after. So that is going to be a really interesting, and obviously, sorry, Manly had the bye last week. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they go coming off the bye up against a Parasite that could have won both the game that they played, but a 0-2 and desperate to bounce back, losing last year's grand final and then the first 2 games for this year. Not a good sign for Para. Ins and outs, it's still a week away from when Para get Ryan Madison back. Sean Lane, I think, is still a couple of weeks away. Jermaine Hopgood, if you don't have him in your fantasy or Supercoach, as all the other podcasts are saying these days, just give up. I wouldn't say give up, but just get him in. Get him in. You still got a shot for the rest of the season. Aside from that, no real changes for the Para team. Simonson had a bit of a nightmare in round 2, so that'll be interesting to see how he backs up. For Manly, Schuster's back for Cooper Johns. You can see Cooper Johns is not even on the extended bench. So Cooper Johns is out, unfortunately for him. But yeah, Schuster's back in. Pretty settled Manly lineup. Their pack actually doesn't look as short as I thought it would be. So like Paseka and Alawai starting, I really like both of them. Obviously Turbo, Jake Trbojevic plays big minutes. Olakau'atu and Tuolongi really dangerous on the edge there. And then Bullimore, he's all right. Kepi can play 30, 35 minutes or so. And then Weeks and Trbojevic is sort of like utilities. So I think Croker and Jake Trbojevic will have to play big minutes. Both edges should as well. And it's actually a reasonable pack. Whereas Para's an interesting one. They've got RCG, Paulo, they're sort of experienced middles. Hopgood's done an amazing job so far. Cartwright and Dury have been okay, but Cartwright obviously has his defensive deficiencies. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup. Fantasy-wise, I guess big decision with Tom Trbojevic. Do you bring him in now or do you wait? I'm personally waiting. I'm going to wait till he gets through at least one more game, see how he goes, and I might even wait a little bit longer, to be honest. In Supercoach and Fantasy, I'm not even looking at him just yet. I think he's priced kind of awkwardly, and if his involvement isn't going to be that high based off based on round one. If he's not going to be at 100% in terms of his confidence with his hammy and his overall fitness, I'm happy to just stay away just for now. Maybe watch 2 or 3 more weeks, and when he does sort of look like he's fully confident, he's definitely one that I'll bring into my team. Aside from that, not too much else. I think Schuster's another one that I'll probably wait on in Supercoach. He's priced awkwardly in fantasy, so I probably won't look at him. But in Supercoach, sorry, in Supercoach, I'll definitely bring him in. Sorry, I was just thinking about something else for the next game. I'll wait to get to that. So look, Knights v Dolphins. The Knights team, this game 2 weeks ago, I think the line would have been like the Knights would have been expected to win by more than a try, and now they're outsiders by almost 6 points. So a lot has changed in the first couple of rounds. The Dolphins are 2-0. They're looking really, really good. Felice Kafusi, they call him Finn Diesel. He's doing really well in defense. The team overall, they've lost JMK, so Marshall King, unfortunately, from Puka. He's there out here, but they've got Cody Nikarima. He'll do okay for a couple of weeks. But aside from that, they're pretty settled. I saw a tweet just today that Jared Wallace is going to be out due to personal reasons, and Mason Teague will be coming in for him. So just look at sort of team changes and what's going on there. With the Knights, it is chaos. So Ponga's out, Gamble's in the halves, Brayley's out, Crossland's in at hooker, Frizzell's out, so Brody Jones is in on an edge over here. There's someone else as well. So there's that's right, Jacob Safidi out for 5 weeks, so Hetherington's in, and they've also got Adam Elliott and Kurt Mann who were out from the week before. That is literally half of their starting 13. It's ridiculous what's happening with the Knights. And they've got guys like well, look at their bench. Rivet, Lucas, never played a game before. Jack Johns and Matt Croker, very little NRL footy. So should be really interesting to see how they go in their first home game for 2023. Dolphins looking pretty settled. Fantasy-wise, I'm thinking like Lockie Miller's doing an okay job in NRL Fantasy. Tabio Fido, you almost sort of him and Asako did really well in round one, but Tabio Fido backed it up with 2 tries up against a weak Knights outfit. You almost have to buy him in your sort of center wings in Supercoach. Whereas for fantasy, obviously the prices have been changing after the first couple of rounds. He's awkwardly priced. I'm personally going to stay away. I just don't think he's going to be able to keep this attacking output up for the rest of the season. And in fantasy, I'm happy to stay away, but you just need the cash prizes for Supercoach. Aside from that, everything else looks pretty stock standard. I think with Ponga missing, he could be out for multiple weeks. Like I'd be shocked if he misses 1 week and comes back straight away, given how bad the hit was and how many HIAs he's had in the last 12 months. So I'd be getting rid of him in Supercoach, potentially for a Tommy Turbo, if you're confident bringing him in straight away. Scroll down. Roosters Rabbitohs. This is going to be an awesome game. Warrior Hargraves is back, and so is Victor Radley for the Roosters. So you can see 2 big ins here. Brandon Smith is still iffy whether he's going to play or not. So I'd be trading him out. Like he's just going to lose so much money in both Supercoach and NRL Fantasy. And even if he does play, you're thinking, oh, is he going to be able to play more than 40 or 50 minutes? And it's up against the Roosters, which are a really impressive pack. So is he really going to have many opportunities to score tries or get tackle breaks and offloads? I would have thought no. So I think the smart thing to do here, whichever comp you're playing, get him out of your team. Wait till they've got the bye next up. So I reckon either he misses this game or he plays less minutes. He gets a chance to rest over the bye. Let him lose cash for what's after that, round 5, maybe even round 6. Let him bleed some cash. Bring him in then because he'll be amazing over the origin period. Obviously, being a Kiwi, he'll be playing through. So I'd be getting him out of your side and bringing him back in maybe 3 or 4 weeks where you're confident that he's sort of almost back to 100% fitness. And I think he'd be a really good cheap pickup, obviously dual position as well. Joey Manu had a good game first up, but I reckon like there's no rush to bring him in. Obviously, he's going to be priced to what he should be averaging. Suwali's had a really nice start to the year. Teddy's disappointed a lot of people, and he's got the buy next up. So I think with Supercoach, if there's someone that you do want to sell him for and you're really excited about, I almost think now's the time. Like, I'm not saying he could have a great performance against the Rabbitohs. I'm not saying he won't, but I think he's likely going to leak cash in Supercoach and has a buy the week after. So if there's someone that you really want, like a Reece Walsh or a Tommy Turbo, I definitely have a look at bringing them in for Teddy. And on the flip side, with the Rabbitohs, Trolls had a good start to the year stats wise. Lockie Elias, I can't believe that many people brought him in. He had a really good game in round one. All four of the Rabbitohs tries were on the right edge. That's awesome, but like you've got a year or two's worth of stats to go off, and he just shouldn't have been traded in by that many people, and obviously disappointed everyone last week. So if you do have him, you got to hold. It's just silly to trade him in on a whim and then trade him out on a whim around later. But I definitely wouldn't be recommending him as a trade in. Sorry. Aside from that, they've got Totola back and they've got Hame Sele back. So Totola starting at prop, Sele on the bench. So if you do have Moale or Mitchell, you've gotten some reasonable output out of Mitchell. I wouldn't be, obviously there's no reason to trade him out just yet. I'd be holding him, getting some cash out of him in the next couple of weeks and then get him out of your team. Aside from that, Murray did have a quiet week stats-wise last week, but I think that's okay. You've got him because you want to just hold him to Origin. He's a gun, and you kind of hope that his minutes and output increase as the Rabbitohs get better and he gets a bit more. It might also be because he had a really long season last year. The Rabbitohs made it deep into the finals. I think they made week 2 or 3 from memory. He also played Origin and then won the World Cup with Australia. Had a really long season. He's the captain for the Rabbitohs. He's got another long season this year. So I reckon with Murray, you just have to kind of be patient. I'll move on to the next game. Titans and Storm, couple of changes here. Jojo Fafita, the wing, goes out. Phil Sammy moves to his wing because Brian Kelly's back. And Sammy Verrills, unfortunately, broken collarbone and played through that. Tough guy. He's out. Chris Randall's in probably for the next few weeks. They're packed. So you got Tino's brother here, Joe Vuna, another rookie, Jaden Campbell outside back, and then Aaron Clark. So I reckon Big Tino, if you don't already have him, he might be an interesting. He might be one that if you're playing draft, you might want to get him in. If someone else has him, recommend a trade because he's going to have to play some big minutes the next couple of weeks. But aside from that, David Feeder's doing his thing. He's doing all right. Tino, I've got him, I think, at Supercoach. Obviously, he scored a try last week. Really happy with that. Really happy to hold him. Tanner Boyd did have a crap game last week. I'd still be holding him. Like, you just have to be patient. He's going to have his ups and downs. He's a young halfback. He's kicking goals. And you just hope that he makes less errors this week and obviously just sort of maintains a little bit of, or builds a little bit of form. Fingers crossed for him. AKP, he relies on tries. So you just got to wait for the tries and hope he gets them a couple of weeks in a row to sort of get a few cash rises in and trade him out. For the Storm, Wishart didn't have the best game last week at 5'8". Hopefully he builds up a little bit more confidence. Not fantasy relevant just because Munster should be back in a week or two. Coates is back. Olam's back. Sims is back, and so is Kamika. So even though that they've lost Asoka Solomona, they've actually gotten back 4 strong NRL first graders. So I'm actually a little bit worried for the Titans here. I know the Storm got smacked at home and now they're going into state, but it does not look like good signs for the Titans, given that they just lost to the Dragons and now they're playing the Storm team with a few players back in. Cowboys, Warriors. Cowboys are missing Drinkwater and Hiku. Chester and Shabaski come in there. Warriors, unfortunately, everyone knows Nickel Clockstad and Ford had their HIS, so they're both missing. Barnett moves to the edge, and they've got a rookie in at fullback. In terms of decisions to make from fantasy and Supercoach perspective, having a look here, like if you've got who was it? If you brought in Ford last week, I thought that was a little bit silly given how stacked the Warriors pack was already, and you knew that Curran was going to eventually get more minutes and Tavanga still on an extended bench. If you had brought him in, I don't get the point of trading him back out. It is going to stall his cash rises, but if he has locked in that sort of big minute edge role, which I hope that's what you thought if you were bringing him in, I think it's almost worth waiting. Like, he should be back next week. He should go back to that role. And yeah, you just need him to crash over for a try in the first sort of 2-3 weeks to boost his cash rises along, especially in Supercoach. I think, yeah, if you have him in, it's worth holding on to him. Heel and Lukey is one to watch out for. If he leaks a little bit of cash because he plays off the bench and then gets that starting spot back off Hess, he's one that I think could be a good buy both in fantasy and Supercoach. But that Cowboys pack is just so stacked. You got Tarmel, Griffin Neen, Tanua Brown, they'd be, or at least two of those three could start for most NRL teams. So, okay, that might have been debatable, but still, like they've just got a really good deep pack. McLean, Cotter, Tamalolo, Neem, Tanor Brown, Taumau, Lukey, then let's just say Hess in that middle rotation. It's just a really, really impressive pack. So I'd be wary of buying any for fantasy or super coach there. Broncos, Dragons. What are the changes? Dragons pretty much the same outfit. Unfortunately, Oates, Drinkwater obviously had a shoulder to Oates' jaw. He's got a broken jaw 6 to 8 weeks, unfortunately. So Arthur straight in. Walsh, I was really happy. I traded him in fantasy last week and obviously had a really good start to his season. He looked really good, and now he's up against the Broncos playing at Suncorp. This should be really good. I think if you're trading Walsh in, I think you just have to make sure that you're not sort of changing your team structure to get him in. He's not going to be a guy that consistently. He's not like a Teddy involvement and tackle break kind of guy. I think he's more of a Ponga, sort of like Ponga or Latrell, like quality over quantity type of guy. So yes, he had an excellent game first up against the Cowboys. I'd just be wary of like changing your whole team just to fit him in. But yeah, as I said, I brought him in fantasy, and I was really happy with that. So if you do need a winger fullback in or a fullback in Supercoach, definitely look at him as an option. Who else do we have? There is talk that Pat Carrigan might be missing this week, something to do with his teeth, and I don't know too much more. But just watch out for Carrigan news. I've actually got him, I think, in both comps, at least in NRL Fantasy. He's going to be playing Origin, and if he's missing a week now, and I know that he's going to miss like a few weeks in the middle of the year, if he's definitely missing, I might just trade him out and try to sort of get my team balance right, because I've got too many mids anyway. So it's a little bit of a. Some people might think it's silly because they're only probably going to miss a week. But if he's definitely missing that week, I might use that as a bit of an excuse. If you don't have other issues, like I'm really lucky in NRL Fantasy that my team's doing well and I don't have too many other issues. In that case, Pat Carrigan, perfect. He's missing a week, and that cash will allow me to fix up my winger, fullback, or centers, and my hooker. I've got bloody Tanner Boyd playing hooker with no backup. So yeah, I'll definitely be having a look at that. Jack Bird, I'm most likely going to be trading him into my centers in NRL Fantasy. He had a good start to the year last year. His minutes are only going to increase as the year goes on. Playing up against his old club, I'm very keen to get Jack Bird into my centers in NRL Fantasy. Aside from that, Terrell Sloan, I know he had a good game last week, but they beat the Titans. He's not an involvement guy. I wouldn't be bringing him into NRL Fantasy personally. And I think I couldn't do it in Supercoach either. Taking up a valuable fullback spot, unfortunately. Dogs, Tigers. Dogs obviously surprised Storm away from home and won last week. Tigers are missing Laurie, Papali'i, Simkin, and Talau. That's like two key players for them and a couple of other sort of players in their 17. There is a chance that John Bateman finally returns, finally plays for the Tigers, which would be big. But that Dogs team played really well last week. They've got a settled team up against a Tigers team who are 0-2, and now they're not even playing at Leichhardt. Yeah, I just think if you've got Dogs players, you should be happy. Perham and Avrila did all right last week. Kiraz absolutely gunned it. I might actually trade him in as a bit of a smoky. Like, I understand I'm trading him in after what could be his highest score of the season. But for once, I'm actually doing well to start the year in NRL Fantasy, and I kind of want to go on with it and take a couple of risks early to see if I can kind of creep into the top 100 or 200. I'm in the top 1,000 at the moment. But aside from that, Jacob Preston, if you don't have him already, you have to consider getting him in. He's played 2 games in Supercoach. I'd be looking to trade him in. He scored a try and obviously played big minutes starting last week. Seems to have that role at least for the next couple of weeks. Tigers, there's talk that Dewey he could be missing. He's got a foot injury of some sort. So just look out for final teams and team news. Moving on to the last game, Raiders Sharks. Raiders, unfortunately, Josh Papali is going to be missing a couple of weeks yet, so that's not good signs. If you've got Saul already, great. If you don't, I wouldn't be bringing him in. Sharks, pretty settled lineup. For people, I don't know if I want to say lucky, but when I heard Nico Hines had done a calf before round one. I thought that could be like a 2 or 3 week injury. And I was thinking if Trindle gets 2 weeks in NRL Fantasy, I'm going to be able to play him, and he's going to put on a lot of money and make sort of 40-ish scores. And he's done pretty much exactly that. And now he's got in 3 weeks, and he could even get 4. So I'm really happy with that. And obviously, if you don't have him already, I wouldn't be suggesting bring him in at all. Wilson, because Graham's missing 4 weeks, he's definitely a hold, potentially a buy in Supercoach, given he's had no price rises. Hudson Young's had a really crap start to the end. Obviously, had an amazing 2022. Wouldn't be buying him, but if he has another quiet game or two with no tries, I'd definitely look at him as an option if he's leaked a lot of money. But yeah, I think that's it. Oh, one to look out for: CHN has been playing more edge and Whitehead more middle, even though they are being named in sort of like the opposite spots. But just have a look out for that and sort of what the stats are like over the next couple of weeks. Let's get into the NRL fantasy trends of what's going on. Obviously, who's hot? Jacob Preston started, scored a try, did really well. Definitely recommend buying him if you don't have him already. Walsh, as I've said before, he is really popular. He had a great performance to start, but then he only scored like 50 odd points. So if he's going to play that well and only score in the 50s, I'm a little bit worried that the quieter games could lead to like 25, 30 scores. And he's already priced around 40 or so in NRL fantasy from memory. So I don't know if he should be as popular as he is. And I'd personally only be sort of bringing him into your teams if he suits your team structure. The hammer at center is okay. I get it, but he is now awkwardly priced. I'm going to say stay away. Unless you have to fix your centers and he's the only guy that kind of afford, that's all right. Cherry Evans got a hat trick in round one. I just don't understand why he's so popularly traded. I think that's a bit silly. If you don't have Hopgood already, trade him in, fair enough. Who played 2 big minute games. I think he's coming to his 200th NRL game, and the Warriors are obviously missing Jackson Ford and Tawanga still not in there. So potentially gets another big minute game, and I think he is a reasonable buy, and he'll obviously be great for you in the buys over Origin. Sloan, wouldn't buy him. Cartwright may only have 1 more week, or maybe a couple more weeks on the edge. I think it's silly to buy him now. You kind of already missed around 100K or so of what is it, 112K of price rises. Who else do we have? Egan, I think that's ridiculous. He scored 2 tries, I think, in the first 2 weeks. Why would you trade him in? Guys being traded out, Brandon Smith, completely fair enough. As I said, sell him now before he leaks even more money. Buy him again in maybe a month or so when he's leaked all that money, and he'll actually be a good buy going to the Origin period. This is really interesting. So I tried to do something different going to the NRL season. I thought, look, Hines is out. So everyone's going to have Cleary. There's about 5 or 6 players that could all average above 60. Why should I go with Cleary? Let's stay away from him. And it's worked out with him having 2 relatively quiet weeks to start the year. We also knew he was going to have the buy in round 3. So if you knew he was going to have the buy in round 3 and you had him in round 1, why are you trading him out now? I think it just seems a bit odd, to be honest, because even if Hines returns, let's just say next week or the week after, he's going to have a buy, I think, in round 6 or 7. So like you're in this odd situation where you're selling Cleary now, but buying Hines in a week or 2 is kind of silly, still coming off a calf injury and about to go into his buy. So I think I find it really interesting that people are selling Cleary, or at least that many people are selling Cleary. If you had him, I wouldn't be selling him personally. Talau, fair enough. He's broken his nose. He'll probably be out for a couple of weeks, and he was playing crap stats wise anyway. Ponga could be out for weeks, fair enough. Ford, as I said, he's so affordable that yeah, it's going to stall his price rises. But I think like if you brought him in, you thought he was going to hold that big minute edge roll for a while. So I don't think why you'd be selling him. I'd be holding Ford. Drinkwater, I don't know why he was popular in fantasy anyway, but yep, fair enough, missing 3 weeks. CNK, I'd probably hold in the position that he's in the sort of winger fullback space. He's probably only going to be missing a week, I think. Don't know why people are selling him. Nas is missing like 6 to 8 weeks, fair enough. Tanner Boyd, unless he gets dropped, I wouldn't be selling him. His dual position, half and hooker. He's goal kicking for the Titans, and should be able to get his cash rises going again after 1 or 2 good performances. I think that's a little bit silly. Aside from that, captaincy, This makes me a little bit frustrated. So again, as I just mentioned in fantasy, I didn't captain Cleary. Sorry, I don't have Cleary at all. So I thought, all right, well, I'll go Murray. He'll have to play big minutes while the Rabbitohs in round 2 are still down on forwards. And then Murray only got like a handful of points more than Cleary, which was annoying. But yeah, obviously with no Cleary this week, I think Hopgood's going to be pretty popular. Teddy going against Rabbitohs may not be. Grant, who are the Storm playing? It has passed my mind. Storm Titans, yeah, don't mind Harry Grant. So I think Harry Grant, Hopgood would probably be two of the more popular options. If Carrigan is missing, then Haas becomes a really good option. And I think I'm going to go Haas anyway. A little bit, look, Murray in a big game, yeah, he should be playing more minutes, but I'm a little bit sort of wary after last week's 45 or so. And I'm thinking Hopgood, yes, he's had 2 amazing weeks so far, but I'd rather go the tried and tested Payne Haas. I think a lot of people might flock to Hopgood from Cleary. And if I can go a little bit different in Haas, because I know he's obviously like way less popular overall. Like if you look at the overall ownership, Hopgood's 56%. And I think Haas is like 15 or something. So I'm assuming this week the Hopgood captaincy percentage is going to shoot up to 10-15% or so, maybe even higher. But that Haas percent should only creep up to maybe 3 or 4%. So as I said, trying to do things differently. I don't think I've ever made the top 100 or 500 in fantasy or Supercoach, and this year I had a good start in fantasy, and I really want to try to crack the top 100. And if that means missing out on the top 1 or 2,000, I'm happy to pay that price. Yeah, you can see here. So I don't think this is relevant just yet, but this top losers section in about 2 rounds from now, there's going to be players that have lost like 150K. So I think like a Hudson Young, I think in another couple of weeks, the Raiders hopefully can build some form. And if he's 150K down on last year, he's one that I'd be looking at. Cobbo, if he wasn't playing Origin, I'd love him as a pickup. You know, another couple of weeks, losing 130, 150K. Broncos are playing well. He just sort of hasn't got much of the ball. Burden as well. Oh, I will talk about this in future weeks. This is going to be good fun to go through. So going through my team just quickly, don't want to brag too much because I usually never have good starts to NRL Fantasy or Supercoach, but ranked 792 so far this season after 2 rounds. Really, really happy with that. I think I've done no trade. So I've done 1 trade right now, which is Tedesco to Bird. Seems a little bit odd, but Teddy is probably going to leak a little bit of money, and then he has to buy the week after, and he's got the Rabbitohs this week. So he's got a tricky matchup, and then he goes on the buy, whereas Jack Bird's already had his buy, and he'll be somewhat of a low ownership guy. There you go. 2.4% owned, low ownership guy in my centers. It means that I can actually, it doesn't really mean much because I've still got Heimel Hunt in here, hoping that he gets a try against the. You know what? I might have to make a second trade because the thought of having Heimel Hunt in there, like I'm so happy with Bird, Walsh, and I know that Walbrick and Alamotti are capable of a decent score. Having Hunt in there is really pissing me off, so I might have to do another trade. But really happy with the rest of my side. As I said, I might consider Carrigan to like a gun winger fullback potentially. Yeah, I'll have to have a look. Aside from that, pretty happy with this team. Just wanted to quickly shout out NRL Fantasy Fanatics. This is the forum that I've been part of for like 15 years. The NRL Fantasy side of this forum has been around for at least 10 years, I know. They've got this really cool sort of bar chart that sort of talks you through stuff. So I know the Broncos, for example, if someone wasn't playing Origin, they don't have a buy till round 16, and which is just ridiculous. So if you've got a Broncos or a Souths player that doesn't play Origin, you know that they're going to get to about round 16 and completely uninterrupted. Whereas I was saying Nico Hines, yeah, round 6. So if he plays his first game, let's just say next week in round 4, he plays 2 games off a calf and then goes into a bye. So I think that's kind of awkward. But yeah, anyways, check out the forum. Really good community on here and really good resources. Coming into Supercoach, I'll quickly zoom through the traded out guys. So for example, Brandon Smith, can't complain. I think in Supercoach, trading out Cleary makes a lot more sense because obviously there's been no price changes and he's going to leak a lot of money when he plays next. So fair enough. Ponga could be out for a few weeks, fair enough. CNK, as I said, if he's in your center wings, I'd actually be keeping him personally. If he's just out for a week, Teddy's going to leak a lot of money and has to buy next week, so fair enough, trade him out. Tanner Boyd, I can understand trading him out as long as you've got a reasonable person to trade him out to. Talau, Drinkwater, self-explanatory. Burden's going to leak a lot of money. Could be one that you trade out and trade back in a bit later. Trade in Hammer, as I said, for sort of like cash rise purposes, you kind of always have to. Egan's just silly. Like, he's awkwardly priced. He's scored 2 tries in 2 weeks. Why are 10% of players trading him in? It just, that's really frustrating. Whereas Karaz, yeah, I think got like a 150 or almost a 150 last week in Supercoach. He's going to go up a lot in terms of cash, and he looks like he could potentially be a gun this year. He even had a reasonable score in round 1 where they got smacked by the Seagulls. Preston, great cash grab, get him in. Marnie, I think he's okay. He did score a try from memory in round 1. But yeah, he's a reasonable option. Walsh, I think, yeah, with Ponga going down, Drinky going down, Teddy leaking cash this week and then going into a buy. I get why Reece Walsh is a popular pick. That's fair enough. Hopgood, of course, if you don't have him in trade. This is just stupid. Trindle, he's probably going to get like 1 or 2 cash prizes and then potentially play off the bench. Horrible decision to bring him in my opinion, if you don't already have him. And then, yeah, DC has got a hat trick in the first round. So fair enough if you get him in for clearing, maybe. But yeah, aside from that, I don't know why you'd bring him in. Captaincy picks from last week in Supercoach was really interesting, like much more varied than I thought it would be. So Grant and Hopgood, the only guys over 10%. Well done if you captained Hopwood, sorry. Teddy, Teddy Cleary around that sort of 6 to 8%. Nothing really surprising. Oh my god, 3% apparently went on Karaz. How do you, Jesus? Well, maybe these are for the upcoming round. Actually, that would make a lot. Yeah, I don't know if this data is right, but anyways, interesting to go through that anyway. Yeah, I'm going to stop with that just in case it's not right. But that's pretty much it. That's it for the round 3 fantasy preview, guys. As I said at the start, please check out and follow us on our socials. We've got a whole bunch of data tools and content all available for free. We'll be doing this video every single week for this one's the fantasy one. We also do one for sports betting and specifically try scorers in the NRL, if that's something you're interested in. But aside from that, all the best with round 3. I hope you enjoy the footy, and we'll catch you next week.